This is the Canadian Country Showcase. Here's Courtney Fielder.
Well, so excited to have you joining us here, Alexander, and so excited about your new song to Canadian Country Radio called Let Me Be Your Whiskey.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here and doing this. It means the world, so thank you.
So tell us a little bit about this song. How did it go for you? Because I heard that you co-wrote this song, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that this is, when you're signed at a label, of course they lean on you for things, but at the end of the day, it's up to them what song they decide to go with. And I'm so grateful that they chose this song because it's one of the first ones I wrote professionally when I got to Nashville, and still one of my favorites. I've had my own issues with substance abuse back in the day, and by the way, I'll always sing about drinking because there was always great times to have been had. It just became unmanageable for me, but I wanted to find a new take on it. And I was sitting in a room with Mike Delaney, who's an incredible writer in Nashville, and he wrote Tattoos on This Town for Jason Aldean. He wrote The Way You Love Me for Faith Hill. And I just said, we all use these things to make ourselves feel better, in these moments. What if he can be that for her? And, I thought it was a very sweet sentiment, and we wrote it. And by the end of it, we were like, wow, this is good. Like, we're really happy with this. And this song is the reason I got signed and the reason that any of this happened. And I really can't believe that this is happening. And I'm so grateful that we get to start in my home country.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about how you got signed, which is a pretty cool story. You've seen some of Jason Aldean's bandmates on a flight?
So after I finished Vikings, I just started taking flights to Nashville because I wanted to write country music. I didn't expect anything from this. I just, and one thing I kept saying to every writer is, look, this isn't some actor expecting anything from this. So often you see people go back and forth. And I believe that the reason it doesn't stick is just because, you're starting from the ground up in a whole new business, and you can't expect the same success you've had in one to translate to the other. And so I just kept taking flights and just kept meeting as many people as I could. And as I was boarding this flight from LA to Nashville, these guys came up to me and they said, hey, we're big fans of this film you did called Lone Survivor. And by pure coincidence, I ended up sitting right behind them on the plane. We talked the whole way. They're now some of my best friends. It turns out that they produced and played with Jason Aldean for literally since the beginning. And of course, Jason's one of my big inspirations, and is since a close friend and such a humble, incredible dude. And by the time we had landed, I had recorded some demos in Ireland on the weekends when I wasn't shooting Vikings. So I'd sent it to them, and they called me 3 days later and were like, dude, we have to do this. We have to work together. And I wrote Let Me Be Your Whiskey. We recorded it. It was our only song we released independently. And BMG took notice, and they said, how real is this for you? And I was like, look, like, if you don't believe it now, you'll believe it in 10 years when I haven't left. Like, this is just something that I've done my whole life. And they signed me. And the craziest thing about this is that when I was 9 years old, my mom walked into a guitar store and convinced this guy to teach me how to play. And for 10 years, we would play together. And I told him one day when I get my record deal, we're going to play together. One of the coolest calls I ever had was that call to him. He had since moved to Nashville, played for Brett Eldridge and a bunch of other people. And I called him and I said, dude, it's happening. And so now we play together, and he's the head of my band.
That is so cool. I love how it all came together for you with that.
It's wild. I feel like I'm living one of those stories you hear about in you never think that you live one of those Nashville stories, but I feel like I am. It's pretty unbelievable. And it's even more special because I get to start in Canada. Like, that's where I want to be, and I get to be home more. So that's amazing.
Yeah, of course, for listeners aren't familiar with that, you're actually from Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I grew up, I always felt like my favorite parts of growing up were always in the mountains. I spent all my time in Whistler Mountain, and my family had a cabin there, and that's where I would write and play. So I named our first album Highway 99 because it was driving up to that cabin where I had my country music education, where I listened to all the music that influenced me as an artist today.
And heard you're 12 years old when you wrote your first song. That's crazy.
Yeah. I have a book of really bad songs that I'd be happy to show you if you want.
How does it feel looking back on those and seeing your interests evolve over the years?
I mean, it's crazy. Like, I'd always tried to figure out how to get into music. It's not like this just happened. Like, I've always tried to figure it out, and I could just never meet the right people or know how to do it. And it just happened when it was supposed to happen. I do feel like, there's a lot of things I'd recorded in the past, and I felt like all of this led to me really finding my sound as an artist and who I want to be. And I always said, like, look, we're not chasing trends. Like, we're doing country music. This is what I grew up on. 90s country is what I love. And, um, you know, we got to stay in the lane that we want to be in and not try to chase anything or chase success. Cause that's not the reason we're doing this. Like, we're doing this cause we love it. And I'm doing this cause I love it.
Now I'm gonna throw you on the spot here. You said you like '90s country, so what would be like your go-to '90s country song?
I mean, top of my head, what was I thinking? Yeah, like what was I thinking? Dirks or you know, you and Tequila, Kenny, or I remember first listening to Drive for Daddy Jean by Alan Jackson, and that song like really spoke to me. Um, that might have even been that was probably '90s as well. So, um, all early stuff, even like Eric Church's Chief, like that record just was just incredible. So all of these have kind of influenced me in a different way. I grew up in a very musical household. Like my mom was always playing, John Denver, Cat Stevens, James Taylor. My dad loved the oldies, so it was always Sam Cooke and all that stuff. So it was just all these different influences that have kind of come together in its own way.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, how do you go from music to acting? Because you have been in so many things like Hunger Games, Vikings, like you mentioned earlier, and now currently the Heels as well. How's it like different hats for you, basically, going from that kind of stuff? Or like, is it two separate personalities, I guess you could say, for you?
Yeah, in a way, like, I mean, yes and no. Like, it has to be authentic. I think that, like, it, I never. I think in order to connect with the audience here, especially, is they need to know that this is real for me. This is how I live my life. This is the things that I love. It's always been what's kept me grounded. I've always loved acting because I love telling stories, but this in its own right is its own form of storytelling. And country music means as much to me as anything else. And um, it's not really like I'm playing a character. It's really like I get to, for the first time, be myself. It's the reason why you don't see me with a cowboy hat on. As much as I want to put one on, it wouldn't be real. I never grew up wearing one, but I did grow up playing country music, and I did grow up listening to it. And the mountains and I think the themes that you hear when you listen to country music is what I'm all about, and it always has been. The glitz and glam of Hollywood, or what people think of it as, is just never been the reason that I did it, and it's never been anything that has excited me. For me, I love my family, my friends, and working hard and telling stories. You know.
Oh, that's awesome. And country music, too, is literally just like one big family in itself, right?
Yeah. I mean, I will say that was like one of my biggest surprises when I got there. Like, I mean, like any business, you're going to have your good eggs and your bad eggs. But I would say that I've yet to find a bad egg in country music. Everybody seems like they want each other to win, and that they're all in it because they just love country music and what it speaks to. And, it really is countrywide. Like when you get there, you realize how many people have come from Boston or New York or Arizona, or like just all these places, or, anywhere in Canada. And it's like, wow, like you don't just have to be from the deep South to be able to play this music or for it to speak to you. And I think that's the reason why this genre is growing at a rate that no other genre is seeing.
And you really got a chance to experience that as well when you were at the Canadian Country Music Awards in Calgary in September, right?
Yeah, that was amazing. That was so much fun. And it was so great to play a show in Calgary. It was just like, we played for like 1,000 people, and it was just, such an incredible vibe and energy in that room. And people seem to have, welcomed me with open arms. And I'm just so grateful for that. And they seem to love the music. That's all I could ask for.
So what's next for you now in your musical journey?
I'm really kind of just going with the wind and seeing, what happens. I'm obviously, I never stopped writing. So I wrote a song this last week, and David Lee Murphy and I wrote another song that we're definitely going to cut soon. So, I think that for me, the goal is to just We have a few shows in Germany. We're going to play a couple of shows in London. Then next year, I'm definitely going to be spending a lot of my time in Canada touring, and we're going to just keep putting out music. That's why I'm doing this. So I get to write and make music, and it's a dream come true in so many ways.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you can find ways to like express your passion through music and everything too, because you're a busy guy. Like I said, you're in a lot of different like movie and show projects.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm just so lucky. I really am. Just that, I always say that I think that the most talented musicians and actors will probably never hear or see. And it's the hard truth of it is that, you know, it just takes a lot of persistence and a lot of preparation, meaning a lot of opportunity. And I've been really lucky that, I've had the breaks I've had, and I, I just, I'm so grateful that I get to do the two things I love most.
Now I got to ask you, because there's a lot of Viking fans out around this prairie area. What is your favorite thing about being on the show Vikings?
I mean, it's like, just what it's turned into, you know, before that show, like that was on the History Channel. There was no reason that show should have been a success. It wasn't like we were on some big HBO show. It was like this was a small show on the History Channel. And when they offered it to me, I did that because I loved it. And I realized that that's kind of how I should approach everything in life. Like just do the things that you love and trust that the universe will work out in ways you couldn't really imagine. So for that show, I just feel like people connected so much to it because they learned so much about a culture that they knew about but didn't really know. It was like we always knew of them as like the demons from the north, but now you really got to understand this culture and the respect they had for their environment and their gods and who they were, and like that was amazing. I'm such a history nerd that it was so great to get to be a part of that. But then to see how that story has like literally transitioned across so many borders. Like I just read an article literally yesterday that said that Vikings have been illegally streamed by 270 million people. Like that's ridiculous. It's like it explains why you go somewhere like Nigeria and people have and know you and know the show, or I go to Uruguay and people know it's wild that like a show like that can have reach like that, and I'm just so grateful to have been a small part of it.
Well, and people are just so passionate about, like you said, I know my late aunt, she absolutely loved watching Vikings and like literally would tell us absolutely everything that would happen in every episode. She's like, you need to watch this. It's so cool. It's so much history.
Yeah, I mean the fans were really cool too. It was like this, like we were like the kind of grittier younger brother, of like a Game of Thrones or something. It was like our fans were just like die-hard Vikings fans, and they would have parties to watch the show. And you go to a Comic-Con and it was just like, wow, I cannot believe how many people have been loving this. And that's why I do this is that we get the opportunity to connect with audiences and inspire people. So yeah, I mean that is just, I can't believe it became what it did.
Well, you know what? We're not going to keep you too much longer here. Is there anything that you want to say to your fans here home in Canada?
No, just I miss you Canada, miss you Canadians, and thanks for welcoming me with open arms and loving the music, and I hope to be doing this for the rest of my life.
We cannot wait to see what else is going to be in the works for you. Alexander, thank you so much for chatting with us here today.
Hey, back at you. Thank you so much.